So before I start, I just want to take a quick survey. How many of you are swimming better today than you were a year ago? Raise your hand if you are. That's a pretty good percentage because it's not the norm. Most people swim, and their experience is what one of our students called terminal mediocrity, which is no matter how much or how long you swim, it always is kind of the same. And so what I'll be talking about today is that improving should be the norm, and that if you make improving at swimming your goal, you're going to achieve all the other things that you're after. And my observations of people when they swim don't lead me to believe that most people are swimming when they go to the pool, that they're there on that day to be a better swimmer at the end of the session than they were at the start. And they're there to get their heart rate up. They're there to get a certain number of yards in. They're there to feel a burn, whatever number of other things they think are the way to get better. But a lot of the things that people do because they think they're the right thing to do, often because they've seen swim teams do them, they've seen coaches give them, and so on, are not really the things that lead you to improve in swimming. And so I'll be making the case today that improvement should be the norm, and that most of what will improve your swimming are things you're probably not thinking of doing. Most of the things that are going to make the biggest difference and result in the greatest amount of improvement are counterintuitive. My personal history as a swimmer is pretty much well, it certainly reflects a lot of improvement. The first time I ever tried out for a swimming team was in 8th grade. It was a CYO, Catholic Youth Organization swim team at my grammar school, and this was a team that only had one meet a year, probably 4 or 5 practices. It doesn't get more grassroots than that, but I was cut. I didn't make the team. Part of the reason is that one of the coaches dove in and tried to save me on my tryout lap. I beat him to the other side of the pool, but even so, the coaches thought it would be best if I tried another year. And I did make the swim team in high school. They had just formed the team, and we swam in the New York City Catholic High School Athletic Association. This is not a hotbed of Olympians. Swimming all the way through high school, by my senior year, I still had not qualified for the league championships. And who doesn't make the league championships in high school swimming? Well, not everybody does, but you have to be pretty undistinguished to not make your high school league championships, especially in a league like that one. I did get to swim in the novice championship, mostly against 9th graders, and I was delighted because I got my first medal ever in swimming at that championship. Went on to swim in college, St. John's University. Was a distance swimmer simply because I had no speed. Never in my childhood did I demonstrate any speed, whether it was running the base path in baseball or basketball. I played every sport, was really undistinguished in every sport, but swimming sort of got me. So I swam in college as a distance swimmer, and in my senior year in the Metropolitan College Collegiate Conference in New York, and this is not Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, Texas. It's Hunter College, Lehman, Brooklyn, Queens, and other such illustrious swimming schools. And I didn't make a final. I swam in consolation finals. So the whole first 10 years of my swimming career really showed no evidence that I was born to swim well. And yet, since I turned 55 3 years ago, I've won 4 national masters long distance championships. I've broken national records, 55 to 59 national records on 3 occasions in the 1 mile and 2 mile open water cable swims. Been the top ranked swimmer in the country of my age is for long distance and open water swimming. Medaled at the World Championships and so on. I mean, just stuff that I would never have conceived might be possible all along. And the main difference is just a shift in my intentions about swimming, a shift in what I thought was important, what I tried to do when I went to the pool. And those first 10 years, it was my goal to be the hardest working swimmer in the pool. And I took pride in it, and I was, sort of recognized by my teammates as being really hardworking, but not terribly successful, but all the same, that's respected, and I was proud of it. But it didn't really get me anywhere. I started coaching right after college, and my eyes were open because I had a team in the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy on Long Island. We had 4 lanes, and the faster swimmers were in lane 1, and the slowest swimmers were in lane 4. And when I watched the slowest swimmers in lane 4, even though I'd never seen video of my swimming, I knew that's what I looked like, and I knew that the swimmers in lane 1 looked really different. In ways it was hard to describe, except just impressions I had. They looked taller in the water and so on. So I really devoted myself not to what the intervals were and how hard I could get them to work and so on, but trying things to try to make the swimmers in lane 4 look more like the swimmers in lane 1. And it was a starting point of having sort of an aesthetically oriented approach to coaching that was over the years pretty successful. So I moved into coaching adults in 1989, and started Total Immersion 20 years ago, and coaching a lot of adult onset swimmers who really had a tremendous number of challenges, and boy, my world changed when I had to do that. So what we'll talk about today is some of the things I've learned from doing that, and how it's affected the way I practice swimming, the way I teach swimming, and so on. So I was just talking about being an improvement-oriented swimmer, where your goal every day is to go to the pool. Every time I go to the pool, I swam at the Hyatt this morning, and I was in there for about 50 minutes. And my goal when I stepped in the water at the beginning of that session was to swim better than I ever had in my life. And that is literally my goal every single time. And there's a lot of tiny little ways in which that might be measured, but there's never a session when I'm in the pool or open water where that's not the thought in my mind. And so the expectation of improving, and knowing how to improve, obviously. And I think this picture here is one. That's my eldest daughter, Fiona. She teaches Total Immersion out in LA. But what I will be emphasizing today is that picture really symbolizes a tremendous amount of what's important in terms of improving at swimming, and really nothing very much about what she's doing there in that picture comes naturally. You'll see a lot of swimmers we've worked with in the video I've got, and my swimming, the video you'll see, there's nothing about it that came naturally. Everything you will see is as a result of a conscious choice to swim in a way that would provide a little bit less of a contest with the water. And that really is what swimming is about. So the shape of her body, all right, the streamlined shape of her body, it looks a little bit like a fuselage, all right? Actually shaping yourself like a fuselage in every stroke is far more important than pulling and kicking. All right, so we'll get into how that happens. What won't make you faster, right? So all the things that people normally think make you faster, more yards. The only reason to do more yards is to accelerate the imprinting of correct movement habits. All right, if you imprint correct movement habits more often, you will imprint them more deeply, more quickly. That's really the only reason that you should swim more yards. If you are swimming more yards, more fitness will happen, but that really should be secondary to your goal of using more yards to imprint correct movement habits. Faster intervals, I see a lot of people putting on buoys and paddles and fins and so on, trying to make faster intervals, and they take them off and they're slower than they were with them on. So they really haven't accomplished anything. When I choose an interval because I've set myself a task, and the task is usually pretty exacting. And when I touch the wall, I won't go again until I feel I'm ready to perform that task at the level that I've set for myself as the minimum standard. Sometimes those intervals are faster, but faster intervals, if I do them, are less a reflection of the fact that I swam faster than that I swam easier and it takes me less recovery to perform that task to that standard again. Aquatic crack. Fins, buoys, and paddles. None of those things will help you or encourage you to get into a position like the one you saw on the first slide. In fact, they do just the opposite. They get you thinking about swimming as an activity that you divide yourself into an upper body and a lower body. You've got an arms department that pulls you forward. You've got a legs department that pushes you forward. And I want to get you thinking about dividing your body down the center line when you swim freestyle, conceptually anyway, all right, into a streamlinable right side and a streamlinable left side, and doing activities that lead you to swim that way. Whereas all these things reinforce the idea of that upper body, lower body division. And then finally, all this energy system training that it gets so much emphasis. How much aerobic should you do? How much anaerobic threshold? How much lactate tolerance? And all of that. Now, if they were to give out medals for the person who had the highest aerobic power, or the person who had the most impressive anaerobic threshold, or could tolerate the most lactate, if they were to give out medals for that, then you probably should train that way so that you had the highest measures in those. But they don't. They give medals for the order in which you finish. In other words, how fast you swim. And there has never been a correlation between any of these things in terms of higher markers and higher performance. In fact, when USA Swimming has studied, they found a negative correlation quite often, which is that they'd see mediocre swimmers with an ability to tolerate a lot of lactic acid. Why? Because they're full of lactic acid all the time because of their inefficiency. So they develop the ability to tolerate it, whereas the really good swimmers don't generate as much lactic acid, all right? So those are all the things that people are typically after. So then the question is, what will make you faster? And this is where we get into the area of thinking differently.